Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. A very grim night last night at Loftus Road. Norwich City's playoff hopes are sort of limping now to a sort of conclusion where it looks like they're going to be in the Championship again next season, and it's not going to be an easy test on Saturday. Of course, they're facing one of the most informed sides in the Championship at the moment. Of course, that is Swansea City, and with that, delighted to be joined by a good friend of mine and Swansea City fan, Chris Durcan. Chris, I think the best place to start is that recent form. 5 wins, 1 draw in your last 6, and a 4-2 win last night against Preston, who are obviously also in that playoff mix. So things are going quite well. But prior to that, you'd lost 5 and drawn 1. So a little bit inconsistent in form. But I suppose what's been the reason for the upturn of late?
Yeah, we seem to be absolutely flying at the moment. It's an incredible run of form. I think the bad run of form going into it was like, it wasn't that we were like, oh, we deserve to lose every single game. I think we did perform well. And so it might be one of those cases that the results were going to come, but definitely not to this level because we've not really been playing that well this season. I think it could be the Bristol City and Cardiff effect. The first win that we got was the Bristol City, and that's a big rivalry for us, obviously quite close to Wales. And so we go over there. It was actually at Swansea, but it was a massive win to beat Bristol City, and then we had the Cardiff game straight after that. The incredible double, never happened in 110 years, and then we did it last year, and then we've done it this year. 2-0 up, went to 2-2, then last second of the game, Ben Cavango 3-2 win, and I think those 2 wins has then projected us. We've got that team spirit behind everyone, and just that willingness to want to win. They see the passion of the fans in both those games, and it just looks really on up at the moment, which is always a positive way to end the season. But then we're going to have to go again next year. I'm slightly hopeful for an incredible last surge for the playoffs, but that is probably far too optimistic.
Yeah, of course, you're coming to this game 3 points behind Norwich, sat in 13th. But as you just referenced, there's no real chance of the playoffs. But, I suppose a little bit disappointing given how close you are still. A lot of teams around Norwich, as we know, have been stumbling of late. And there's not really a team in that sort of 5th down to sort of 12th bracket that's really grasped it and ran away with, sort of confirmed their playoff place. So I suppose let's just go back to the start of the season. Where did you expect Swansea City to be? And obviously you're now 13th. So would you have taken that at the start of the campaign?
I'm always far too optimistic. I'm always pushing for in and around the playoffs, and I think I felt that's where we were building to at the end of last season, and we seem to have we had this kind of run again last season. We ended the season well, and it kind of felt that we might then click under Russell Martin going into this season. And at the start of the season, we started off fairly strong, I think, and going into that first Norwich game that we were in around you guys, and we had a few good runs under our belt and looked like we could be pushing for the playoffs. So slightly disappointed where we are, but not like horrifically disappointed. I'd say like mid-table playoffs would have been my ambition at the start of the season, and it looks like the way we're going at the moment, we'll probably be finishing at just a few points off the playoffs, which isn't drastic, but it is just because our owners are shambolic and never back our team and just want to sell our players. And so I don't think I can be going into seasons thinking, oh, we're going to get promoted when we're not getting the backing from the board. And that's the problem behind it, really.
Yeah, certain Russell Martin in charge in the Swansea dugout, of course. 309 games at Norwich City as a player, potentially a future Norwich City manager. I think probably those around Norfolk would feel. So he's going to, come down to Carrow Road. He's going to relish that opportunity to probably try and end Norwich City's very slim playoff hopes. So I suppose, how do you assess the job he's done at Swansea? He's now been there, 2 seasons coming up for the end of this campaign. And I think there's probably been a lot of kind of positives, but he's also, come out vocally and obviously spoke in January at the fact you didn't make any signings, and he's frustrated himself at probably the lack of backing. So, one, how do you assess the job he's done? And 2, sort of what do you want to see from him maybe next season to try and push you on to that next level?
It's an interesting one. Some Swansea fans really happy, some Swansea fans not so happy. And I think that happens. That's just bound to happen when we just keep having these spells of really good form, then really bad form, and then so I guess when it goes bad, you then have that feeling of, oh, is Russell Martin the right man? Um, is what he's doing good enough for where we should be? I'm a fan of him. I really like that he wants to play football the right way. Sometimes maybe a bit slower than like we would want, and sometimes like what are we gaining from this? That is the Swansea way. We like to play possession style football. So I've really been a fan of Russell Martin. Um, I think it is just he's not been backed, and you can't blame a manager when every season he's losing his best players and they've been replaced with players that no one really knows about that he has to then mature into like becoming good players. And you can't blame the guy. He's finishing mid table at the moment and he's just doing really well. And as in going into next season, I probably just want to see a bit more of that consistency. I think sometimes we are um, just very out of form, and it just keeps going on, and that can't be acceptable. The main one is just sometimes we're just controlling games, and we just let teams in it. We've seen Arsenal do it in the Premier League the last 2 games, and that you just can't do it. And that's what Swans have been doing all through this season. The amount of times they were up in games, and then we allow the other team back. Fortunately, last night it worked out well because we're 3-0 up, 3-2, but then we got that last minute goal to seal the tie to make it 4-2. But we just can't be doing that. So I think it would just be that'll be something I want them to change. Just a bit more control in games when we are easily winning them.
Yeah, you've got a striker up front who looks like he's amongst the goals. That man, Piero, he scored quite a few goals last season in the Championship. Maybe had a little bit of a slow start to the campaign, but certainly in the second half of the season, sort of since the World Cup, it feels like he's kind of hit the levels that he hit last season. So is he maybe the key man to watch out for on Saturday? I mean, Norwich's defence has been under a little bit of criticism in recent games, so probably an opportunity for him to exploit that maybe.
Yeah, 100%. Key man scored 2 goals last night and 5 in the last 5. He's just absolutely smashing it in. It's interesting what you said because I think Norwich Swansea was the first game after the World Cup, wasn't it? And I think up to that point he had only scored 4 goals. And I remember us chatting about him and we were saying that last season, going into this season, we're thinking he's going to be the star man to be scoring goals, who's linked with Leicester over the summer transfer window and other teams as well. But then he started off the season, didn't get as many goals as we'd liked. I think Olivier Nchan was top scorer when we last spoke. But then he's now come back, and I guess with these recent runs, he's managed to get some goals. But he has been getting goals even when we've not been getting the results as well. So 100% star players to watch out for. To think that we're mid-table and is he 4th top scorer in the league, it's pretty good, and it's slightly worrying because teams are going to be looking out for him next year. And could he be the next Swansea star player to then leave in the summer window?
Yeah, I just want to touch on that reverse game back in December, as you just referenced, the first game back after the World Cup. Norwich obviously had Dean Smith in charge at that point, and there was probably a little bit of frustration being we'd just lost to Middlesbrough prior to the World Cup, but Norwich came and got the win that day. Timu Puki's first minute goal was enough to seal the victory. But Swansea were very good that day and probably felt that they were maybe robbed of at least a point, probably all 3 points. So just want to get any reflections on that game, and are you maybe expecting a different test, of course, on Saturday with David Wagner in charge now?
Yeah, it's been so long. I can't picture loads of the game, but I think we were reflecting on it earlier, and it was that early goal from Pukki. And then we just dominated it like we dominate quite a lot of games, and we seem to play good football, but we can never get that like last bit of goal or chance. And I think that was when we're struggling around that time to really just finish chances. I guess Piero has now started getting the goals, which may have helped back then. So I think we could be a bit more hopeful this weekend. We always seem to not have a great record against you lot since I've been good mates with Adam over the last few years. I think I've definitely had the bragging rights over the years, and I'm slightly worried that you will on Saturday evening as well. But who knows? We're coming into it with the form. You guys are not. It could be an interesting game.
Yeah, we'll just touch on that in just a moment. But before we get there, I just want to get your take on the playoff situation in the Championship at the moment. You kind of said, you're still hopeful for Swansea's chances, albeit, they're pretty much they're done and dusted. And it feels like Norwich's chances, certainly if they lose on Saturday, will be all but done and dusted as well. So I suppose who do you maybe think is going to be in those last two playoff places? There's sort of quite a pack of teams there that can still make it, of course.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's so hard to call. Yeah, I am only saying Swansea because I love to just go. It's never over till the lady sings, whatever the saying is. But it is over. We're not going to get the playoffs, and so it goes down to the other teams. I think the game in hands with Blackburn and West Brom are going to be pivotal, but Blackburn are just they've had it in their hand for so long, and they are very fortunate that the other teams are not playing well either, because they're still managing to stay in that sixth position after like drawing quite a lot of games and losing them in recent form. And so that they just keep on struggling. So they might get to the playoffs because of that game in hand. But I think in the playoffs they're going to have no hope. It'll be interesting to see like how they compete against the Lutons and the Middlesbroughs of the world. Obviously, you guys got a little drumming from Middlesbrough a few games ago. So it's going to be interesting. I think Millwall may just do it. And then I think West Brom might do it. But then they do. West Brom have you guys as well, don't they?
Yeah, next weekend. Yes, that's a massive
And
game.
they have us in the last game of the season. So maybe they've got some hard games. So it'd be interesting to see who's going to sneak it. All right, let's just go Millwall and West Brom because of West Brom's game in hand and Blackburn's bad run of form.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you on that one. But we'll turn the attention, of course, back to Norwich and Swansea. The big game at Carrow Road, 3:00 on Saturday. Chris, how do you see this one going? Are you hopeful for a victory? There's actually not been a draw between the two sides in the last 8 meetings, so it's probably all set up for a draw. But yeah, are you hoping for a win?
Of course, Adam. Of course. Every time, hoping for a win. Are we going to get the win? Of course we are. I mean, it's going to be a good game. I mean, it's end of season fever. Both teams are going to come out for it. We saw a 4-2 last night. Let's go for a 3-2 win for Swansea. It's just going to be an incredible, cracking game of football. Everyone's going to love it. We always have these games at the end of the season, and I think it's going to come out and just be a good affair after your 1-1 last night.
Yeah, so going to be an interesting atmosphere at Carrow Road on Saturday. I think Norwich probably need an early goal to try and get the crowd on side. Of course, they've not scored at Carrow Road in the last 3 games as well. So I think they're sort of yearning the Carrow Road crowd for a goal. So it could be an interesting afternoon. I'm hopeful for a victory, but also given the recent run of form and your guys, good form. I can't say that I'm really looking forward to it on a footballing aspect. And with that, we will round off this week's edition of Terrace Talk. Chris, thanks for joining me for this one. Of course, lots of great content across the Pinken and the Pinken Plus app. David Wagner's press conference is a 5:00 start tomorrow evening. Not overly pleased with that one, but we'll move on. We won't talk about that. Lots of other great content, of course. Chris Sutton's latest column is up. Obviously, we will be at Carrow Road on Saturday, so all the latest action and all your team news and everything like that will be across the Pinken and the Pinken Plus app, of course. A free trial, $1.99 a month thereafter. So if you're not a subscriber, then that's the place to go. Thanks for joining us for this one. Russell Martin, I'm sure, will be looking forward to this one, relishing the opportunity to try and end what I think most Norwich fans already feel is a season that's going to end with another season in the Championship next year.